Hello and welcome to this demonstration of how you can use Targetprocess to optimize your scaling results for your organization. Today we're going to talk about ways to achieve value and performance and delivery and quality results using our Targetprocess solution. What I've got today is a demonstration we'll be walking through for an Acme Bank and insurance company, and this is Targetprocess, our one solution that we have. There are a series of views that we're going to be using on the left-hand side here, and there are additional views that you can also add if you want. You can also include new views if you want to go ahead and do those. These views can be used to allow you to set up things like reports, boards, lists, and roadmaps, and so forth, using any of the entities that we have within our solution. Today we're going to be walking through a safe example, but you can use Targetprocess to scale any type of method or mode that you want, from just purely Scrum and Kanban all the way up to the highest levels of different types of methods like the Scaled Agile framework. For this example today, we'll be walking through a portfolio, a program, and a team, and then some DevOps and delivery monitoring results that we can see. So let's go ahead and get started at a portfolio level. So ideas can come from anywhere, and Targetprocess comes included with an ideas dashboard. And inside of that dashboard, you can have a web page. Off of this web page, you can create a new idea. So if you have a new great idea, we can create that new idea. But that's something that we want to create, but we don't necessarily want to have the teams be working on yet. So you can see on the right-hand side here, the new ideas showed up in my ideas intake. And now my team can go through and decide when I want to go ahead and review that. So we'll mark that new idea as under review. And then one of the ones that we already have planned at the top here, we'll go ahead and open up the details page for that. On this specific idea, this is an example of the details page where I have my high-level tabs across the top and then my detail across the right-hand nav here. And I can see the flow of the lead time so far for this specific idea. On this new idea, I want to create a new portfolio item or a new epic off of that. So when I go under create here, I can create different types of assets. In this case, I'm going to create a portfolio epic entity. When I click on portfolio epic, this creates a new detail page for me, and I can see my brand new portfolio epic. And we'll go ahead and just call this an epic here at the top. Now off of this epic, we can see that we've already pulled in our lean business case. We can fill in the details here, and this came from our idea. We can also, again, use the right-hand nav here to go ahead and update some details. So let's go ahead and put an initial estimate in here of 552 points, which is how many points we think is going to be on this specific item. And then we automatically calculate inside of our solution the planned investment and the projected cost. Because we track lead time and cycle time on all of our assets, we're already tracking that here as well on this specific portfolio epic. Now we can start to plan the detailed work, and we'll look at the couple examples here of dashboards where we can go in and plan that specific work for this portfolio epic. In this case, we're looking at our Horizon budget guardrails and see how we can align that in terms of investing, emerging, and then retiring all of our investments. We can also track the progress of that epic as it moves forward. So can we have some options there? One thing we do want to do, though, is align that epic to our strategic themes and our big strategic goals. So here I've got my strategic objectives and my key results, and we can plan that work now, those epics, to align to these specific strategic objectives to make sure that we're aligning that work. Once we have the work aligned and we know we want to start to work on it, we can track that work on our roadmap. We can plan it out that way. So this is an example of the timeline or the time zone for that specific work. We can adjust the view of that here at the bottom using the scale. We can also see where that work aligns. So we can track the start date and the end date and the planned end date for that work. So we can see how long it's going to take us. And as we look at this specific roadmap, it's showing us exactly where that work would align. We're going to align it to our specific big milestones as well, so we can track the work to a milestone view. And we can also filter on this specific view to see other details or other levels of epic feature or any other types of entities that we might want to see here. We can also track our epic on our Kanban board, which is going to allow us to see the flow of that work as it moves through. So this is showing us all of our epics in our backlog in terms of the funnel, what's being reviewed, analyzing, and what we can move forward with as well. We can change the data that we see on these cards very easily, and we can also track dependencies where we have dependencies across that work, so we know exactly what's going on for these various different epics. From a portfolio perspective, we can bring all that back together again with our portfolio dashboard. On this dashboard, we can track things like our solution investment and making sure that we're investing in the right things. So as we're tracking through the different program increments and the dates of the times that we have, we can make sure that we're aligning correctly to those increments. We can look at our plan versus investment cost and make sure that we're in alignment there with our actual costs for our planned investments. And then once again, as we're aligning to our strategic objectives, we can make sure that as we're looking at making sure that we're tracking things to the right level, that we're progressing correctly, and we can drill into the details of which ones of our strategic objectives are being met, which ones need a little bit more work, or some ones we should focus on a little bit differently. So that's one view of this at a portfolio level. The next thing we want to do is break that work down, and we're going to break it down further from the portfolio, maybe in a yearly plan, into our quarterly plans using the program module. So under the program folder, I've got a couple of different ways that we're going to look at the data. We're going to start by looking at our program increment schedules. So our program increment schedules show me the different release trains or the groups of work that we're doing. In this case, we have two different trains that we're working on, and we see that we've aligned all of our program increments for those release trains. Now we can drill down into this in more detail if we want to, but this just shows us how we're scheduling our work, and we can decide if we want to go ahead and add a new train or maybe add another program increment if we need to on the specific view. Once we have our train set, then we're going to look at our features and make sure that we have the features aligned correctly. So we can look at this from a solution perspective. So we've broken down our solutions under banking to core banking and credit check. And then we have two other release trains under the insurance solution, which is channel support, loan origination, and fraud management. And then under these, we can track our teams and our sprints and our PIs underneath those specific teams as we drill down further into that. So this just shows us some of the hierarchy and how we can arrange the work and track the features that we're going to start to plan and manage. From an overview perspective, we can start to break down those epics that we looked at earlier into our features. This is showing us where we have the features and the features that are in our funnel. So the top of the list here should show us the highest priority item that we want to go ahead and manage. And we can go ahead and then switch that state of that specific item into a backlog, which is going to move that down into our backlog view. So as we drop down here under backlog, we can track the weighted shortest job first, or the score for that. So in this case, we want to make sure that we have the right values associated to those. So we'll put a time criticality score, we'll put a business value score, and then we'll also put a job size on that, which is going to go ahead and calculate for us a weighted score. So 2.63 is the weighted score for this feature. Now when we go ahead and sort that by weighted shortest job first, it's going to allow us to see how we should organize and manage these features. So these are the top 10 features that we should move into our next program increment as we get ready to move forward. Looking at what we have planned into those program increments, we can see that work now aligned and organized, and we can make sure that we have the right features planned for that program increment. And we'll look at capacity planning here in a little bit. One of the nice things about our capacity planning is we can actually do that by teams, and we can assign that work as well. So in this view here, we've got our capacity planning page, and this allows me to see the features and the estimate for those features. And then what we can do is we can actually assign specific teams to that, and each team can have a capacity number assigned to it. So in this case, the reports team has 200 points of available capacity right now. So we can take the extra capacity, the 58 points we have for this custom rules MVS, we can assign it right here to the reports team. What this is going to do for this PI is going to make sure that we assign that work to the reports team. We can also give them another 55 points here from feature 2. We'll assign that to that team as well. Make sure that we have that we have that work assigned to the reports team as well. Again, what that does is allows us to see how much has been assigned and make sure that we don't go over and assign points for any specific team. When we apply those changes, that's going to apply that capacity to that specific team, and then that team can start working on that and know that that's the work that we have planned into that specific program increment. That's one of the ways that you can plan capacity for a specific team, and then you can also manage and track the work. One of the things that's really nice about Targetprocess as well is our interactive reporting. So in this case, we've got a specific report that we created. This is features by team. You can very easily create new reports by coming down to the create and creating a brand new report down here. For this specific report, we have features assigned to teams, but what I can't tell here is what's the state or the status of these various different features. So we're just going to go into the setup for this specific report, and we'll show you a little bit about how you can go ahead and monitor that. So here I've got the source settings, and what I want to do down here is select a new data field called state. And we're going to take the state of these specific features, and we're going to drag it over and drop it onto the color option here. So we're going to use this to change our report, and now you can see the different colors for those items. When I finish on that, it'll allow me to very easily see what's done, what's being implemented, and so forth. So you can either zoom in on, or you can turn off the various different reports, and it's just a really nice way for us to very easily monitor a report and then see features by team, by state now. As I drop down on my PI dashboard report, we can see some more details for this specific work that we're planning. In this case, we've aligned the work to our PI objectives. So here I've got specific objectives, and we're planning our planned business value and our actual business value for this teamwork. So as we complete the work, we're going to complete the actual business value, which is going to give us a program predictability score, and we can make sure that our teams are aligning into this 80 to 100% range. If we want to, we can take that report that I just created, features by team. If we want to add it to this dashboard, we can simply drag it over and drop it onto here, and that will easily add that report onto this specific dashboard as well. So very easy for you to configure and manage these dashboards and make sure that they have the information just that you want to see at your fingertips. So once we have the dashboard set, we want to make sure that we have our capacity plan aligned. So in this case, here's my PI5 capacity that we're looking at. We're at 430 total points so far, and we want to get to 2,000 points. So if I take two of these features, we can double click on them, and we can just drag those over and drop them into PI5. That's going to move these two items over here into PI5, and that's going to allow me to see the updated amount here. So now we're at 630 points. So that's how much we've moved into that, and it allows me to track capacity, not just from a team perspective, but also from a overall quarterly perspective, and make sure that our program increment planning is set as we want it to be. When I want to track the dependencies across this work, I can go to my program board, which is going to allow me to see where I have dependencies across that work. Now, the blue string here is representing a dependency where I have an upstream or downstream dependency. The red string is representing a blocker where I have a blocking issue. And then the dotted line red, which is highlighted, is a planning issue. Planning issue here is where something is out of order. So if I want to take this clone dashboards and I want to get this done first, I should drag it over and drop it into the earlier sprint, so that even though it's still a dependency, at least it's not out of order anymore. To create a new relationship, I can simply right click on this and I can add a relation, and I can make this a dependency of board improvement. So we'll just go ahead and select that, and we'll call that a dependency. So now the string will automatically appear, and you can see that that relation was added as a downstream dependency from effort metrics to board improvements. Along the left-hand side, we're looking at each individual team, and you can change these views any way you want to make sure you can see other details. Another thing you can also do is zoom in, so you can have different sizes of these cards. So if you want to see a larger card and put more data on there or more details, you can zoom in, or you can zoom all the way out and see a lot of individual cards if you want to see those as well. So just a handy way to use the zooming to track and see exactly what you need to see on the different cards. Finally, we'll finish up by looking at our program dashboard view, which is going to allow us to see progress metrics, things like team cycle time and burn down and burn up charts. So this allows us to make sure that our program is on track and that we're delivering on the promises that we said we're going to deliver on. As part of our planning cycle, we also might want to look at risks, so we can roam our risk. In this case, look at what's been resolved, what has not been owned yet or accepted or mitigated, and we can track those risks here, and we can also put more details on these cards for our risk. Once we have our plan set and we know exactly what we want to do for our quarterly plan, we can use competence voting to go ahead and vote on that. This is an example of putting a survey into one of our dashboards, and you can use this to do something like a 5-to-5 voting. So you can decide if you have the entire team vote on this to say, yes, this is exactly what we want from a survey perspective, and we can submit that survey, and then we can update the responses here, and we can see what we need to adjust or what we need to look at in terms of the overall voting and the confidence and the comments that we have on that specific voting. Finally, when we're all done, we can finish up with our retrospectives, and we can see exactly what's going on from a inspect and adapt model. So here I've got different action items that we can track for our retrospectives, and we can look at this list view here, and we can see exactly what feedback we've gotten so far and how we want to address and attack those specific action items for that feedback. We can do voting on this as well, and we can say whether or not from a 1 to 10 scale we think that these retrospectives were good, or did we need to improve in other ways. So lots of detail that we can put on these retrospective action items to make sure that we're continually looking to improve our model. Once we have our program set, then our teams are going to do their planning down in the sprint planning area here. So we can do an iteration plan or a sprint plan, which allows me to track and manage the work that the teams are planning into the various different sprints that we have aligned. So this is just dragging the work over from no iteration into sprint planning and making sure that we're adhering to the different sprint goals that we've set for our individual teams. Once the teams have planned all of their work, then they can start to track and see exactly how well they're doing. Each team can have their own dashboard, which is showing me my rules of the road and my definition of done, and making sure that we're tracking the right things in terms of making sure the teams are doing things as they're supposed to. You can also add checks in here to make sure that we haven't added anything new during the current sprint, which might violate one of our overall guardrails or rules that we don't want to have the teams doing. As we're tracking our team velocity and the number of bugs that we have, and we can see over history what's going on, as well as making sure that the teams are working towards those improvement models using those retrospectives that we talked about earlier. Each team will have their own individual task board, where I can see the tasks that we've assigned to individual members, and then as they're tracking their work from open to plan, in dev and done, they can just move that along on their board. You can also reorder these here if you want to go ahead and update or reorder the work on the task board. If you're a Kanban team, you might have a different flow of the work. Instead of looking at burn downs, you're looking at cumulative flow, as well as flow efficiency, and making sure that we're tracking things like impediments coming in. So these Kanban teams are doing more of a pull model. So they're going to take items off of their team Kanban board and make sure that they're tracking their work correctly as we walk through the work from the Kanban board from an open state and dragging that work over onto our in progress plan, open and done. So we can see the next work that we need to do, and we can drag that over and put it into the different views here on the Kanban board. Finally, to look at our overall metrics, we can go into DevOps and we can measure exactly how well we're doing for different measurements and things. This is an example of a monitor dashboard where once that work has been worked on, we're tracking the work that's been delivered. We have a deployment and a measurement component to this, where we're actually looking at incidents coming in. We're looking at mean time to acknowledge and mean time to recover, so we can track those scores and make sure that we're tracking the detailed delivery of the work that we're doing. We can look at various different environments and make sure that each environment is being tracked, and we can track how well we're doing on delivering on those environments. We can also look at delivery results, so we can track expected results for performance versus actual results. And we can also look at things like delivery of value, so actual value we've delivered versus expected value can be tracked and measured as well. As these incidents are coming in and we're monitoring those, we can see how many incidents we had between failures. We can count our incidents, and we can monitor our downtime as well. So this data can be collected from any third-party tools that are out there or any other way to bring in the information. We can do the measurements on these deployments and make sure that we're tracking that work all along. So whether it's tracking from beginning to end, from an idea all the way through to delivery, or just making sure that your teams are being more effective, Targetprocess is a great solution for you to scale from the highest levels all the way down and be able to roll up all that information to various different dashboards. If you want more information, please email us or let us know, and we hope to talk to you soon.